Okay, before because I got this website that's got the information from TV.com, but last time when I started, when I have that doing because stupid iPad, I can't have two things up at the same time. Do you have like the pictures that have like the opening credits on the screen?
Yes, we're live.
Well, the reason I was asking that was because
yes, I do. I do have the credits, and
if you're gonna pull that up, that has like the writer and director and stuff.
Yeah, I got all that.
Then that'll be on the screen. So
yeah, I've got the writer. I don't think I've got the director, but
all right. Well, I can find that out easily. I just wanted to know what you would have up. So
yeah, and the thing something I'm gonna do from now on is try to do is when I say we're live, and then put the date on Monday. This is American time. Monday, May 16th, 2016. Although really, it's May 17th, Tuesday.
Gonna make a time capsule.
Yes.
All right.
This is what we used to be like.
Well, today we're talking about the Homicide episode, season 3, episode 12, which was called Partners.
Which is
a little confusing when you're looking up information about, because there are multiple Homicide episodes that have the word partners in the title, but this is the one just called Partners.
And the best thing about this episode is when the bastard got shot.
All right, well, if you want to pull up those graphics, I can...
Yeah, okay. Right, so, just... Right, so, that is... okay, let's go with pictures. Do you want to improvise, Jeff, and do some filler while I try to find these things?
I was ready to read the thing, but I thought that's why I asked you about that. But if you're
okay,
ready, I'll go back to... We can say that at the end of my summary then.
Okay, I'm just going to have a look to see...
But remember, since I'm reading this, I can't tell when it comes on the screen, so you'll...
Okay. It looks like I found them. I've just seen what I've got snaps of.
Okay,
right.
January 20th, 1995 is the original air date of
yeah.
So anyway, so episode recap, and I'm reading this. I haven't read this before, so this is me reading it off the cuff on TV.com. So if there's anything wrong with it, forgive me in advance. Lieutenant Russert and the new detective on her shift, her longtime friend Doug Jones, arrive at the scene of the murder. Jones, the rookie, gets help on his first case back as a witness, names the victim as well as the shooter. Bayliss gets a call and reminds G he has no partner. G pairs Bayliss up with Lewis. Bayliss seems unhappy with this decision. On the way to the scene, Lewis scares Bayliss with his insane driving. Lewis bumps into the back of the medical examiner's truck and injures Bayliss's head. Back at the precinct, G tells Lewis it would be wise for him to get a lawyer. Meanwhile, Pembleton is involved in some legal matters of his own surrounding the congressman cover-up and gets advice from an attorney who says he should just tell the truth. Munch, Lewis, and Bayliss's bar grand opening is Friday night, and they each do their part advertising this event to fellow detectives. However, they don't get straight answers, only maybes. After Natalie Jones ends up in the hospital after falling down the stairs, Russert begins to suspect Jones's husband, her new detective, might be abusing her. Russert does some work and finds out this is the case and recommends to Natalie Jones that she leave her abusive husband. G meets with Pembleton at the courthouse and says, "You changed red names to black, and for that reason and that reason only, I want you back." On the stand, Pembleton denies the deputy commissioner and the department's involvement in any cover-up. After having a tough time being at home, overcooking everything that comes out of the oven, Pembleton asks G for his badge back, and G grants this request. Russert arrives at Jones' house, where Doug has been shot twice and is barely alive. It turns out Natalie shot him after yet another round of abuse. At the detective's bar grand opening, it's 9 o'clock and nobody is there. Munch reminds Bayliss and Lewis that people are probably at home watching the X-Files. That's a little joke because X-Files aired on a competing network on Friday nights, although not actually opposite Homicide. The first to show up is Bolander, who orders 2 drinks right off the bat. Soon the bar is packed with people having a great time, including all of the detectives minus Felton, who is in Philly. Munch tells everyone to come back tomorrow for half-price wings. Oh, that's the recap.
That's not that recap was a little bit inaccurate.
What was inaccurate about it?
We said when it said there, G said, and for that reason only. He never said for that reason only.
Actually, you did. Yeah, that's pretty much a direct quote.
I thought he said, "I want you back because of this."
Well, he did, but
But I don't think he said for that reason only.
you want me to play it back?
Yeah.
Okay, it'll take me a few minutes to cue that up, but
Okay.
hey, Morgan, can you do me a favor and hand me the thing on top there? And
I know he said that you changed it from red to black.
put that in the PlayStation, please. Thank you.
I thought he said something like, "I want you back because you changed red names to black."
That is what he said.
Yeah, but the way they did it, and for that reason only, is I don't think he said that bit.
Right.
Anyway, we will find out. We'll have the suspense. My faulty memory is on the line.
Okay, so do you want me to read David B226 Morris's review, or do you want to?
Oh yeah. He's usually pretty good.
You want to say your comments first? Okay.
Do
right.
B2 Morris, whatever his name is.
Okay, so he says, Homicide was a great show, but on rare occasions the writers would have problems utilizing characters who weren't detectives. They managed to do a good job with Al Giardello, but they dropped the ball on a few other supporting characters. A shame, because the actors involved were usually better than the material they got. The most obvious examples of this were two people that you haven't met yet, so I'm not going to say who they are. Though there were interesting aspects to their personalities, it was often a struggle. Lost my place. I want to struggle to have them have more than token appearances on the show. The most extreme example of this was Megan Russert, a woman whose position on the force seemed to rise or fall in the inclination of the writers. We've already seen attempts to include her in places she doesn't belong in all through the house and Nothing Personal. Partners tries the opposite by having the show follow Russert into places we wouldn't normally see. In this case, we see her working with her former partner from Narcotics, Douglas Jones, who was just transferred to her command. There is some real potential to explore the dynamics of being superior to someone you used to work with, somebody you have become friends with. However, rather than explore this avenue, Fontana and company focus on the relationship between Jones and his wife Natalie and the familiar specter of spousal abuse. Actually, no, I don't want to quit playback. Sometimes I hate this thing. When you play DVDs on a, you get some things that are easier to do than others.
Right.
All right, where was he? Probably this scene.
There's no music in it, is there?
I don't know if it is. It's pretty brief.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm going to pause it there for a second. All right, and finish reading what I was saying about this.
Okay.
Okay, from the moment Russert shows up at the hospital after Natalie's injury, we are driven down a path that is seen on almost every other crime show on TV involving a battered wife. And this, I couldn't agree with him more on this. This is what I hate about this episode. This is not to say that this can't be the stuff of great drama. Indeed, okay, skip that part, another spoiler, but we don't really see that here. Mainly we are dragged down the role of a familiar journey of a detective being criminal. There are possibilities here, but they mostly go unrealized. Though burdened with a heavy-handed central story, this remains an enjoyable episode because of the side plots. For one thing, we have the fallout of the scandal involving Congressman Wade that began in the last episode. Since Pembleton has resigned, the department, particularly Deputy Commissioner Harris, is concerned of what he will do. Initially, it seems that Frank will tell the truth and the consequences be damned. However, before he testifies, G confronts him and tries to get him to face the fact that he allowed himself to be used by the bosses and pride brought him down. In fact, that's a good moment to stop and play this.
Okay.
Can you hear that?
Just about.
Okay.
cream for sugar. That doesn't make you homesick for the office, nothing else will. Have you decided what you're going to say on the stand? I'm going to tell the truth. That Harris authorized me making an offer to me. If that brings down Harris, that brings down the whole department, so be it. I won't sacrifice myself for the sake of their public images. And if you're going to talk me out of it, don't waste your time. If you want to bring the department down, do it. I have no love for bosses. I find the boss every day. Why are you here? You're a proud man, Frank. But your pride got you for this. Don't let your pride keep you from getting out of it. This has nothing to do with pride. It has everything to do with pride. And Frank, if you know in your heart that you're doing this because of some righteousness, then do it. But if this is some kind of vendetta, then you'll get no satisfaction. I will be proud of my best detectives. What do you want from me? You want me to come back? Why? Because we're friends? It's not true. You're right. I never been in a house. I never met your wife. We are not friends. It ticks me off before you say what you think. Yeah, what I think about what you think. But there's one thing I know for certain. You change red names to black. And for that reason, and that reason only, I want you back.
Ah.
Correct.
There you go.
Oh. Ben's faulty memory.
So there's extroverted thinking for you. You're right there. Turn black. That's why I want you back. I don't care whether we're friends or not. All right. So continuing this review thing here.
But as a guardian, though, that would probably hurt him a little bit.
Actually, I think it did, because you see the look. I think, again, great acting by Yaphet Kotto, because you see on his face, he is a little bit stung by friends. But then he thinks about it for a second, and he's like, well, you're right, but here's why I want you back anyway. So there he is, a little bit wistful. He quickly accepts the reality and makes his pitch based on what is true.
I'll just say a little thing. Is Wojtek's father's ESTJ, and he said that his father knew everyone in his town, and so maybe some are more socially extroverted than others when it comes to ESTJs.
I have an ESTJ coworker from Turkey who knows everyone in Turkey, and she visits. Yeah. Okay, so continuing this little review thing here. Still, we're not sure how this is going to play out until we are in the courtroom proper. At the last conceivable minute, Pembleton swallows his pride and takes one for the team. But as he makes clear to Harris, who tries to weasel himself into being on Frank's side, or because he expects advancement. He did it for the department, and he makes it clear he won't do it again. Harris doesn't forget this, and more spoilers. That was a great scene, though, I have to say. The thing between Pembleton and Harris in the bathroom. And I think the fact that it was in the bathroom makes it even better, because it's got this backdrop of, this uncomfortability of this small bathroom where the two men are standing there. Drama between the two.
Well, maybe what we could do in future is, if we can get away with it, is play little clips of certain scenes when they are particularly good.
You kind of notice or anything like that, then maybe, we can do that. As long as it's short enough, we can probably get away with it.
Yeah, and there's no music.
And I noticed that some of the complete episodes of Homicide that are on YouTube, when songs play, they drop the audio down so that you can't really hear it. So they've either already had something take it down, or they just know enough to know that they don't want to get that to happen by having the music recognized.
Right.
All right, so Frank uses this as an opportunity to get his badge back. Part of this is because of his miserable and hilarious failings as a domestic. He tries but cannot cook a decent dinner. Part of this is because his wife talks some sense into him, but most of it is because Frank is a murder policeman through and through. It's in his blood. And anyway, Bayliss needs a partner. In the course of this episode, he tries to work with Lewis, who is also a solo act, but this goes incredibly badly. The problem isn't Imazul, but rather the sits on driving behind the wheel before, and given what happens, we don't particularly want to see it again. He gets lost on the way to a crime scene, drives the wrong way down a one-way street, drives on the sidewalk, and finally crashes into a parked car, sending Bayliss to the emergency room. We don't know how he's going to squeeze through this, but he does mainly by following his lawyer's advice and saying he's not sure whether he did anything wrong. This partnership would not have worked out even if this hadn't happened, because Bayliss spends it trying to convince G to rehire Frank. When Frank makes an unexpected appearance at the waterfront, Tim tries to bring his partner in by talking up an old case. As is his style, Frank refuses to pay attention now, but later will return to work, having absorbed every detail of the file. He still doesn't acknowledge Tim as his partner, but then he probably wouldn't under torture. In the midst of all this confusion, the waterfront finally has its grand opening. The first real customer is Bolander, but soon it becomes a real party atmosphere. The waterfront will last spoiler thing. With problems and never becomes much more than an average episode, but even the average episode has notable repercussions. It could have been more, but it's good enough to satisfy my score 6.5. Okay, so Ben, what do you think?
What do I think? Okay. I liked actually the actor did quite well. You know, the guy that playing the abusive cop. You know, when he was initially, those initial scenes where he was saying, "Oh, he wasn't in." He was quite convincing in terms of showing somebody who was. So it's good lying acting, in other words, where it was just enough there to show, oh, this guy's hiding something. Yeah. I like the other plots. The continuing thing with Pembleton. Yes. I will say something about the Lewis thing. Actually, it was a case of. Oh, I'm back. Initially, I thought it was a case of how can Bayliss be this stupid? It's obvious that Meldrick is driving this badly in order that he can be the primary and Bayliss can drive. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, he's driving really badly. And so maybe two things took over there. Maybe part of it was Meldrick trying to scare him with his driving, and then otherwise it just might have been incredibly bad driving. Literally incredibly bad driving.
Well, I think
I don't know. How did you interpret that, Jeff?
Previous scenes in the show that Lewis was driving, you know, for any extended period of time, is only for, you know, very, very short thing. So from that is that he generally is not so safe a driver, but Cressetti was not as of that, or you know, that was just something they would like to bicker about. But, you know, whether he's doing it on purpose in that situation, you know, maybe a little. There might have been kind of a let me mess with Bayliss here combination of how my co was not quite as bad as they portray Lewis, but he can come close. Including one time where we had a new manager on her first day, and in the restaurant we are.
Oh dear, your sound's cutting out.
Lewis going in reverse, and he's
Yes, sorry, Jeff, your sound cut out then. Can you repeat that again? The anecdote about your friend or co-worker.
No, I completely forgotten the story now. No, it was the first day for a new manager, and we took her to lunch. Scott was driving, and he at one point couldn't find a parking space in the regular parking lot, so he decided to he did the same thing Lewis did, where he drove really quickly in reverse to a trailer. That was it.
Right. There wasn't a film star in the trailer? Right.
What was that?
It was just a bit silly. That wasn't a film star in the trailer. Yeah.
No, thankfully there was no one actually in the trailer, though. The
No.
guy who owned it was inside the restaurant and came out to so they had a discussion.
A discussion. Yes.
They exchanged insurance information, that sort of thing. So it was a wonderful way to welcome our lovely ENFP manager that we had at the time.
An ENFP manager? What a combination.
She is no longer
Oh, you cut
a
out.
match for us.
After
She's
you
a
said-
wife and other
After you said she is no longer, the sound cut out.
She's no longer a manager, but she is still working for the company. She's a wife and mother now. She has other priorities than management, so
Right.
she's only working part-time. Another ENFP manager, actually we have two again, because one that left and came back, and then we have one out in town. But anyway, that's nothing to do with Homicide. So, yeah, I thought the scenes with Lewis and Bayliss were funny. I just thought, it was good comic relief, and I like the little character moments where we have Bayliss from the start didn't want Lewis to drive, so obviously has gotten to Bayliss already that he knows Lewis is the driver, so isn't the first time it's come up.
Yeah, I mean the way it was set up. I mean the way it was set up, it was like, oh, Lewis is going to deliberately drive badly.
Yeah. Well, he may have. I think the basic deal is that he's not a great driver to begin with, or at least he's reckless with his driving. In general, he decided to really play that up with Bayliss.
Yeah.
He figured, hey, this is my opportunity to, jack around with him. So, as SPs will do.
Yes, I've learnt that.
and it will become, not already is, but as the series goes on, if you try to count up the number of times where SP characters mess with Bayliss, it's an almost endless list because he gets messed with quite a lot by just about everybody. But anyway, so yeah, was there more you wanted to say before I chime in with my thoughts on the?
I'll just go through some of the grabs, see if anything comes to mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got these people here. We've got the Al Freeman guy.
Yeah, he's really good.
Right.
Yeah, and hold it right there. so now I can say the teleplay was by David Ruppel and story by Tom Fontana and Julie Martin. There you go. So I couldn't say that earlier because what I figured out sometimes they don't have their facts right on the writers and stuff in the episode, so I wanted to double check that by what was actually on the screen because I'm pretty sure those are accurate. John McNaughton is the name of the director for this episode. And the other guest star, a couple that I would mention, Amy Brabson is the one who plays Mary Pembleton, Frank's wife, and she is also Andre Brower's real-life wife, McBride, the assistant medical examiner Dyer. She is Richard Belzer's real-life wife, who plays Munch.
Ah.
A couple things there.
I like these old computers where you got the monitor on top of the computer. Just saves a little bit of space. Right. These weird glasses, his professorial glasses.
Look that weird to me. I had a pair that was similar to that. Yeah, I almost forgot about G's reaction to the donuts.
Yeah, he looks a little bit put out by that, a little bit betrayed.
And you get these great little, great character moments to a lot of the people, but, for G, it's like things like realizing that nobody told him there was jelly donuts. So that was a great moment because he seems much more focused on that than any of the serious stuff he's being told by anybody.
Well, cops and donuts go together like what? Strawberries and ice cream, I suppose, or strawberries and cream. Sorry. And then we've got the ubiquitous open a fridge or cupboard and have the camera inside piece of direction.
Yep.
Which always looks cool, but has been done rather a lot.
I like that too, where Bolander picks up the half and half and smells it and then puts it back in.
Yeah. Now, actually, I think what Bolander would, him being a good little SJ, wouldn't he have then got some new cream, put it in, or thrown it away? Replaced it?
No.
No.
He keeps to himself with his own little bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all, it depends on what mood he's in. Whether normally he'll make a comment about why doesn't somebody get rid of this, because he's like always about, like that day nobody makes any new coffee. I always have to be the one that makes the coffee. They'll make little comments like that.
And he did the thing where someone leaves a drop a little bit because then they don't have to make a new jar, I suppose what it is, or flask. I don't know what it's called. A new pot. I don't know. I would have thought, in the way this was written, that when this guy really plays the race card, I thought that would have stimulated Pembleton into saying something.
Well, he did say something. They both said quite a bit.
ENTP and their boundary issues. Just go up to a woman and do that. Right.
Well, there's a woman who knows pretty well. It's not like she's a stranger.
Yeah, but right.
In that exchange, you have the one of many where Bayliss does his sort of self-righteous act with somebody who's just trying to do their job.
Yeah, and you can sort of see it coming that, where's this leading? This is leading towards some kind of romantic thing.
Yeah, but the funny part about that is the one that ends up getting her number at the end of the night is Lewis, not Bayliss. Maybe a little turnabout from the last time with Emma.
Makeup was quite good on this woman.
Yeah.
Right, now you were saying that that is what, now, I'd like to know from you, what in particular about that storyline?
All right, well, first of all, I will say that I liked almost everything else in this episode besides the abuse storyline. As far as that part of it, a lot of it was said by that other guy in the review I read. I disagree with you about the guy who played Jones. In fact, the first scene with him and the guy who's supposed to be like his informant or a drug guy, whatever, like the two of them, to me, the acting that was the first time I ever thought the acting was bad on Homicide, was in that scene. They both just sounded like they were very scripted and just very unnatural sounding, and just like they sounded like rejects from some other cop show that's not as good. So right off the bat, we have this scene where like, I've told you before, like my thing with, if you're going to have a show where you start it with people that aren't the main characters, then they've got to be really compelling characters. And right off the bat, we have this scene where 2 out of the 3 people in the scene we've never seen before, is still relatively new to the show, still trying to kind of accept her, but at least like the reviewer points out, in this part, it makes sense for her to be there. Actually, this guy's shift commander, rather than just sort of tagging along with one of the regular people like she did in those other previous episodes he referred to. So it made sense for, and all the stuff, like, the parts I liked of the story were, you know, when she went to go visit the old boss in Narcotics and a couple of those things like that. Even the part with the bowling alley, like, there were some scenes that were better, but everything, like, from the first part, you know, for that first scene that was bad with him and the guy who doesn't sound like a criminal informant.
Yeah.
And then the whole abuse storyline, like, it was so predictable. It was so TV movie of the week. Excuse he made. If you're going to do this kind of story, there needs to be something in it that makes it, you know, make these characters compelling rather than just being abused wife A and abusive husband B, you know, and that's pretty much what they were, you know. And it's like you get and as good as Homicide is at introducing characters that they flesh out and they get used more, you get the feeling right off the bat that, you know, you're never going to find out anything else about these two. We're never going to see them again. They were just one-off characters to be like, you know, story of the week. Oh, talk about abuse kind of thing. And so all it was missing was like the, you know, a cast member give you a special hotline number to call for if you're abused. Which, don't get me wrong, nobody jump on me. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to provide that information to people, but it's the kind of thing that you would have, like, you know, some sitcom or something, you know, where they have an episode where it's a very special episode of Alf where somebody gets abused, and then we have our phone number at the end. And so that's the feeling I got from it. It was just sort of this, you know, and the ending scene, I mean, the actress is very effective in that last scene.
Yeah.
I teared up. I admit it. She got to me, but it still didn't make the story overall good, just because, you know, I think they probably did the best they could with it. Seemed out of place. And I don't remember off the top of my head whether this screenplay writer wrote other episodes or not, because I haven't memorized all that. But it does seem like that story was kind of out of place in the rest of the narrative. It was really kind of the way I looked at it. So it's my least favorite episode of season 3. And it doesn't mean it's a bad episode. I still think overall it's good. And like I said, just about everything else that wasn't that story, especially the scenes between Frank and G and some of the Lewis Bayliss stuff, confrontation with Frank and the commissioner at the end of the bathroom, I thought was really good. And you really get kind of what I was saying last review when I was telling you about, like, the way Harris looks at things. He really put that out there. And Pembleton, you know, gave as good as he got, which, you know, left Harris with that. We'll see what happens kind of reaction. So he knows he's still got the power at this point.
Right. Yeah, like I said, with that actor, I was just saying, I just like the bit where he was, his lying acting was quite convincing, but not like the rest of his performance. It was just that particular bit where, because usually when sometimes some people act lying, they make it obvious that they're lying.
Yeah, all I can do is disagree with you there. It seemed obvious to me that he was lying. But
no, I'm just talking about in the first scene. I was just saying in the first scene in which he was lying, not then after that.
Which part?
Oh, the part where he was talking about, he was outside and he wasn't there.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it was very convincing. That's why. And Russert obviously didn't think so either, because she was on to him right from the start. And she was right when she I like the scene where she confronted him outside. You know, I thought that was effective, like with the wind blowing her hair in her face and her being like incredulous that he would throw back all these excuses that we've heard from all of these abusive husbands as detectives. and you're going to throw me the same stuff. I thought that was actually pretty well done.
Yeah, I was just saying that it wasn't meant to, because she would see that he was lying. I'm talking about from the audience's point of view of somebody acting somebody lying.
Uh-huh. But I was in the audience, and I didn't think it was good. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough.
It's okay for us to disagree.
Yes. Right. I wasn't watching it that closely anyway. Right.
Well,
right.
that you have no excuse for. Start watching it more closely.
Right. Yes. With this storyline, this abuse storyline, I just think, well, this is really depressing. Like, where are you going to go with this? When you have a 20-episode season, you get episodes like this in the middle of a season. Usually they'll have like some like mid-season climax, and then like episodes either size of that are terrible.
Yeah, and I don't think this was terrible, but it was.
No, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, that part of it was not very good. And to your point, this was the episode before the February sweeps period started, which is, if for those unfamiliar with American television, in February they tried to run their biggest ratings-grabbing episodes because it's a period where they really keep track of the Nielsen ratings for advertising purposes and deciding what shows will be renewed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because that's when the advertising contracts come up.
Yeah, so they have the sweeps periods in November and February are the two main. So what you see with a lot of shows is they try to put what they think are their best episodes, or at least the episodes that will grab the most viewers, something exciting or different happening in those periods. And so you will see in the next episode the beginning of the sweeps episodes. And it's a definite change in tone from this one, that's for sure. And a much better episode, in my opinion. But
so, what did you think of her performance?
I think her performance was fine. I just thought they gave her a very one-dimensional character that didn't really have much to do or say. So, and in the last scene, I thought she was very effective in conveying, what her feelings were at that time after shooting him. I mean, I thought that was, and describing, what went down, that was, she did a good job in that, for sure. Isabella Hoffman, who plays Russert, again, I thought she was fine throughout the episode. The story itself was not very well written, I don't think. And so I think she did the best with what she was given. But like the reviewer said, her character was misused the whole time she was on the show. So I don't blame her for that. I think she probably did the best she could. And I don't even entirely blame the writers, because there was network pressure from the beginning to put her in there. And the whole thing was just awkward. They could never figure. They had this sort of battle. She became sort of the person that was in the tug of war between the network and the people and the producers of the show. And the writers were just trying to do the best with what they're told they have to put her in. So it's the whole thing with her was just kind of odd.
So, what are Morgan's thoughts on this episode?
He hasn't seen it recently, so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he has any fresh thoughts to give at the moment. Yeah.
Right. Okay. It's just.
How about that scene with G and Frank, though? You saw that just now. He gives a thumbs up to that.
Right. Right. I don't think there's much else I can say about that one.
All right then. I guess it's time for our ratings.
You go on.
Sorry. Go ahead. You go first.
Okay. I'll give it about a 5, but that's because of those kind of abuse storylines make me feel uncomfortable, because it reminds me of a problem that can't really be solved and is therefore depressing. when it reminds you of
Uh,
something negative
if
about
they-
human
if
nature.
Sorry to talk over you, but if they had focused more on the other stories and not had that, I think this episode could have maybe. But to me, that really drags it down. Which, if you're paying attention, is my lowest rating so far because everything else has been a 7 or higher for Homicide. It won't be the lowest rating for the whole series, but it will be for this season. So there you go.
Ooh. So what did you get there? Because the sound has been a bit funky.
I gave it a 6.
Right.
6 out of 10.
Right.
When I said that's the lowest bar in these Homicide reviews. I've given a 7 or higher so far. Which so it reminds me because when I first started reading Doctor Who reviews on a particular forum, there was this one guy named Blaine who Doctor Who episode ever made, he gives between a 7 and a 10. Is there anything below a 7?
Has he not seen?
Times where
Wow. Twin Dilemma?
yeah, he's seen all of them. Times that he will like sound like he's royally ripping an episode and really didn't like it at all, and then you read the end and it says rating 7 out of 10. There's just like the only thing in this whole review thread that he ever rated below a 7 Who episode, it was the pilot of the spin-off show for K9 that
Now-
never really happened.
Now, when he did those reviews, was the adulterated version, 21st century version, on air?
Yes. Yeah. He's given such horrid bits of horridness as pieces of fat or trying. He gave that a 10 out of 10, whereas I tell people that's an example of how to absolutely butcher Doctor Who. With examples being such things as the sonic screwdriver being used on and an extended scene where and his companion are mouthing things to each other across agreement. Everything, as Simon Cowell would say, about that was horrible, and he gave it a 10 out of 10. So that gives you an idea of how that guy is. And I'm not quite that bad with Homicide, but I do know I did start to kind of laugh at myself because I noticed I hadn't given everything at least a 7, which is his magic number up until this one. So I said, okay, well, here's my first example of when I can say drops below a 7. And like I said, I still have do not think there's a bad episode of Homicide. However, there are some that I rate more low than others, and this is one of them. So
The worst show I've seen for inconsistency is Star Trek Voyager.
I didn't really see a whole lot of that.
Awful
Very few complete
episodes, but a few really good episodes.
Because that show had several good actors on it. So
That's the thing. Whenever they did comedy, they knocked it out of the park. Whenever they did a comedy episode, and it was like, well, this should be the tone of it.
So you said 5, I said 6. So
yeah, it's
what's that?
The sound is really choppy at the moment.
You've sounded fine, so this time it's apparently entirely on my end because I haven't had any problems hearing you at all.
Right. Well, hopefully it's better in the finished recording.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up anyway and say that this is the low point of this season, and it gets much better next week. So, well, it won't be that far for us, but I mean the next episode. So, next time, folks, for The City That Bleeds.
Ooh, right, and hopefully I can fit that in the title. So, goodbye, folks.
Goodbye.